Well, welcome and a very good day to you. I'm Randy Johnston. I've written a number of guides for AccountingWEB and have been around the accounting profession for quite a few years. I've been on the top 25 thought leader list since its inception in 2011. I'm currently on the top 100 list for Accounting Today. And I'm reachable at randy@k2e.com or randyj@nmgi.com. So, this particular session is about 5 accounting trends. And when the request came in for me to record this content, I thought, well, that's very interesting. Let's see if we can figure out what would be reasonable things to talk about. So I have 5 specific items that we're going to talk about: client collaboration, pre-accounting, the impact of advisory services, how SaaS products are making progress, and how we can use fewer tools rather than more tools. And you'll see what that means here in just a little bit. So first major trend is about client collaboration. We believe that the days of working alone or working in an isolated fashion are really becoming rare. They're few and far between. You need certain technologies, I think, to assist. Products, as an example, like Liscio or SureLink, certainly fall in that category. But some of this really started as early as when the earliest of the Google products, the Google Sheets, the Google Docs, and so forth, were created because they started doing this simultaneous authoring or co-editing or co-authoring as it's known. So today you can do that in Microsoft 365 with Teams and SharePoint, or you can do it in Google Workspace or in the Zoho One platform. So think, number one, about client collaboration. Number two, a pretty important emerging area is what I call pre-accounting. Now, pre-accounting is the attempt to have technology assist us with various transactional needs. So these products will often gather documents and translate feeds into transactions. So very popular products in this category include things like HubDoc from Xero or Vic AI, or Dext, which is now owned by HG Capital, formerly known as Receipt Bank. And there are other competitors out there. But these tools will basically look at a transaction, categorize it for entry, and populate it. Now, our rule of thumb is if an accountant is keying data, you have a broken process. And these tools allow not only the keying of the data, but also the gathering of the supporting documentation. And while in many cases we're going to get bank downloads for our transactions and credit card downloads, sometimes there's still paper documentation supporting transactions, and these tools do a marvelous job of enabling that. So another big trend to watch for is pre-accounting. The third major area to consider is advisory services. Now, there are dozens, and in fact, recently I developed a list for digital CPA to talk about advisory services. And by my count, I got over 70, that's 70 different advisory services. Now, advisory services, as I see it, have core, secondary, and tertiary services, or maybe we could call those primary, secondary, tertiary. Sometimes I refer to tertiary as concierge. Now, the deal here is on advisory services, we're trying to help business owners and businesses accomplish what they want. So a lot of times one of the core services is planning. And then at that point, you can look at all the various other services, and the ones that you provide might be secondary, and the things that you don't have the expertise or don't have the desire to do, let's just say business valuation, you can refer that in a concierge type of approach. But the idea here is that you're trying to advise clients on solving things that are important to them. Now, advisory is much more of a 30,000 foot high and wide view, as opposed to consulting services, which are very narrow and deep. So, for advisory, what you really have to do is ask clients questions and listen to the responses and try to figure out what resources are needed to solve those particular problems. And advisory is very proactive. And many firms have run some of their consulting practices in a reactive mode. We also recognize that compliance services, for example, like tax or client accounting services, tend to be rear view facing, whereas advisory services are forward looking. So think looking out the windshield versus looking in the rear view mirror in a typical car. So there are tools that can help you with advisory services. An example of that might be the Complete Advisory Solution out of the UK, a framework to help with creating all of these types of service offerings. So a third trend in accounting is advisory services. Fourth is SaaS products, software as a service. Now, we've been around software as a service, these products that run in a browser, since some of the earliest inception. I thought that the adoption rate would go faster than it has, but we really lacked enough high-speed access, enough reliability for this to catch on as quickly as I thought. But the products are clearly enabled by higher speeds and by more stable and larger data centers that are more capable. It's really clear, though, a couple of three things are going on that I want you to be aware of. First, we see a bit of a trend back to traditional licensing rather than the per user per month approach. We're seeing a little bit of SaaS payment exhaustion beginning to set in, and business owners and buyers are looking for ways to cut off recurring expenses. On the other hand, where mobile has become so strong, we still have spotty outages, and the ability to have a progressive web app, an app that can store a little bit of the application and data locally and work in an offline mode, is coming along very, very nicely. And these progressive web apps, which can run on Android and the iOS operating system, are making good progress now. We've also supported a lot of this SaaS progress by higher speed communications with 5G cellular or with satellite offerings like SpaceX Starlink, or higher local fiber optic speeds, from the likes of Verizon, Fios, and others. And we're beginning to note that some of the cable providers, are becoming a little less common. They're still the dominant provider, but the shortage, the coverage that we didn't have here in the United States seems to be improving notably. Now, one final thing that I'll call out is these centralized SaaS applications are still somewhat dependent on local processing power. These cloud data centers are distributing some of the power out to the edge. So we see that happening with Amazon and Azure and others, but just as important, in your cell phones and in your mobile computers and desktops, the benefit of having dedicated graphics processors is a pretty big deal. So, we encourage you in your desktops and laptops to spend the extra money for a dedicated graphics processor for performance reasons. So the names like NVIDIA would be an example of that. But we also see the benefit in our mobile phones. Over the last few generations, Apple and the iPhone family has been increasing their capability here. The jump from the A14 chip to the A15 chip between the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13 leads me to strongly recommend the iPhone 13 Pro or Pro Max, which has a total of 26 processors on board, 2 core, 4 background, 4 newly designed graphics processor, and 16 Neuralink chips. No, 10 Neuralink chips, it's 16. Sorry about that. 16 Neuralink chips, which gets us a total of 26 processors in that unit. Now, the Android phone, the Pixel 6 from Google, has TensorFlow. Now, TensorFlow is an AI machine learning technology that's in the Google data centers, but they figured out how to put that on a chip that runs inside the phone. So all of these SaaS products are being enabled by higher speed communications, by some local co-processing capabilities, either in hardware or with things like progressive web apps. But we also recognize that you don't have to pay by the user to get advantage of all the SaaS apps. So the fourth major trend is that SaaS products are making progress, becoming more feature complete and robust, and they're also getting faster along the way. Then the fifth major trend is that there is a tendency to use less rather than more. In other words, taking the suites that you already licensed, the likes of Microsoft 365 or Google's Workspace or Zoho One, where you have 37 or 14 or 50 plus features or modules respectively. There's so many modules inside Microsoft 365. People don't even know about features like bookings, for example, or in Zoho One, besides all the productivity software, spreadsheet, word processing, so forth. There's also meeting software and email marketing software and accounting software and voice over IP. Lots of features, 50 plus inside that product. As opposed to Google Workspace, it primarily is focused around the productivity tools, the Google Docs and the Google Sheets, but they also have mobile device management in there, just like the other two competitors do. So we are finding that if you take a base product and add on other modules to solve the problem, that's what you do with Xero accounting software or QuickBooks Online. You'd add third-party modules. That's perfectly acceptable. But by the time you do the base product plus the add-ons, you may actually be better with a more broad accounting product like Spire Systems or Accounting Suite, which have multiple different functionalities and modules all in one. So in effect, they become fewer tools to do more things. So the fifth major accounting trend here is fewer tools that do more things. So you're getting more done in lesser tool sets. Well, to summarize what we've been talking about here, I think there's 5 key accounting trends. Client collaboration, which has become so much better client experience. Pre-accounting tools to eliminate some of the mundane activities. Advisory services where we're providing direct guidance to clients to help them achieve their goals. That SaaS products are making great progress and becoming more refined and quicker. And then finally, the big suites, including those for productivity like Microsoft 365, Zoho One, or Google Workspace, or accounting software products like Spire Systems or Accounting Suite, are adding more and more features inside their products so you can get by with less. So less is more. Well, I hope these 5 trends have helped you maybe desire a little more information or lead you to do a little bit of research, because these 5 trends will affect you now and in the future. And I appreciate your time. Again, this is Randy Johnston out of Hutchinson, Kansas, signing off on this YouTube video. Talk to you later.